so this is over polynomials. At the very top right, polynomials. Identify an expression that is equivalent to this. So put a little box around the word equivalent. We want to be able to rewrite this, and so it'd be like if I graphed this or if I graphed what my new expression would be, they'd show up as the exact same function on a graphing calculator. How do we do that? Well, there's a few different ways, and I'm just going to review with you what I believe is the simplest way. So I take the denominator and I set it equal to 0 and I solve, and I get an answer. You're going to be showing all of your work today. You get an answer of 3. So really what I'm doing right now is I'm putting a 3 out front, and I called it the mama method, but in reality it's called synthetic division. So 1x cubed subtract 7x squared plus 15x minus 9. I am testing to see, is 3 an x-intercept? Another word for x-intercept may be solution. All right, so first I make sure everything's accounted for. To the cubed, squared, to the first, and no x is great. Bring down the first number. Again, I call it mama because it's multiply, add, but it's really called synthetic. We multiply to get 3. You add down to get negative 4. Multiply to get negative 12. Add down to get 3. Multiply to get 9. Negative 9 and positive 9 is 0. What does that tell us? It says, yes, this is an x-intercept, and in fact, x minus 3 is a factor. If you get 0 here, it tells you it's a factor. But this particular problem didn't ask us to check if it's a factor, and it didn't ask us if it's an x-intercept. I'm just sharing that information with you because it'll be helpful in the upcoming problems. This problem just said rewrite an equivalent expression. And you're going to get that information from this portion. This number to the right of your remainder has no x's. The next number contains 1x. The next number contains 2x's, and so on. Now, you are more than welcome to write plus 0 over x minus 3. But whenever this is a 0, you don't have to attach this on, because what is 0 divided by anything? 0, so it cancels out. But it's always over the denominator. Okay, go on to number 2. Same concept. We're really checking to see is negative 5 an x-intercept? Is it a solution? So we're checking to see, is x plus 5 a factor of this? So to do that, we put the negative 5 out front, and I have to the third, 1x to the third plus 10x squared minus 25x minus 12. First thing we have to do is we have to make sure everything's accounted for. Cubed, squared to the first, and no x's. Bring down the first number. Multiply, add down. Multiply, add down. Multiply, and add down. Angel and back, what does this tell us when I get a 238? It tells us that x plus 5 is not a factor, or another way to say it is that x equals negative 5. It's not an x-intercept. It's not a solution. So that's what it tells us, just so you know that. It's background information. But we're just wanting to know what is an equivalent expression. So we're going to take this portion. This number to the left of the remainder always has no x's, 1x, and 2x's. And then it's going to be the remainder over whatever the denominator was. Okay, you're going to be doing a lot of partner talk today. Jackie, can you sit here for me? Can you move up for me, please? Can you move up? Brian, can you move your desk up as well so you're right across, right next to Brandon? Okay, with your partner right now, you are timed to make sure we get through 7 pages today. Right now, you have 25 seconds to check understanding with your partner. Go. See if you can help them or vice versa. Okay, back up here, thank you. Take your highlighter, and you don't have to, you can share it with your partner, take a highlighter, and anything you're not feeling totally confident with today, you're going to highlight it, and I'd love to work with you during advisory where I can answer any questions you have about any particular problem you still seem a little confused about. It also tells you which problems you should review tonight before you take your test in the next week. Okay, so this next one says this x plus 3 is a factor. It is a factor of this polynomial. It tells us it's a factor. It's different than the last two problems. So if this is a factor, then we know that x equals negative 3 is an x-intercept or solution, however you want to state it. So put a negative 3 out front, and we have 1x to the 4th, 2x cubed. I'm writing everything down just as I see it. Since we know it's a factor, I get to put a 0 at the very end, because it is a factor of this polynomial. Okay, so here we go. Bring down the first. I'm going to do the same thing. I multiply, add down. Multiply, add down. Now, if this equals 0, what numerical value should be here so that when you add down, you end up with 0? And so when I multiply, I get 12 again in this position. So I have to ask myself, negative 3 times what number? Because remember, negative 3 times what number is going to give you a negative 12? Negative 3 times what is going to equal a negative 12? And the answer is 4. So I'm just going to take here, I have a, some value a plus 12 has to equal 4. When I solve for a, I get an answer of negative 8. Problem's done. What's important that you always check is the highest exponent was a 4. Everything has to be accounted for. That means x to the 4th, to the 3rd, to the 2nd, to the 1st, and no x's. Okay, they may try to trick you. Go on to number 4. Please circle where it says contains a factor of x subtract 2. So if it contains the factor, what else do we know? X equals 2. That's an x-intercept or it's a solution, however you want to say that. So put a 2 out. Now when I say go, it's okay if you don't get it done in the time I give you. You're going to have 1 minute to talk with your partner. Please don't walk individually, to see if you can get an answer in 1 minute for C. Begin. X to the 4th, x to the 3rd, x squared, x to the 1st, no x's. Okay, so I know that I have to end up with 0 on the bottom, which would make this a negative 72 if it's going to equal 0. Multiply, add together. Multiply, add together. Going to stop you. Your 1 minute is up. Completely fine if you're not done. How many of you have at least this part? Maybe you're not done, but you have up to this part. Can ask that it's quiet. Okay, so I'm going to multiply to get negative 18. What number times 2 will give us a negative 72? Well, if you grab the calculator and you take negative 72 divided by 2, you get an answer of negative 36. 2 times negative 36 is negative 72. I circle this. C minus 18 equals negative 36. You can put a plus here as well. C plus negative 18 equals negative 36. I add 18 to both sides, and this problem happens to give you an answer of negative 18. But be careful. Do you see how everything was accounted for? What if in this problem we didn't see an x cubed? What would we have to put in this position? 0x cubed. Flip to the next page. Okay, given the function below, identify the real roots of h of x. Real roots, what do those answers look like? It looks like numbers that do not have any i's involved. Real roots have no i's involved. No i's. So to do that, I'm going to leave this as just the answer. I'm going to leave that as just the answer. I'm going to put down what a is on top. And when I write this down, I'm going to ask myself, can I factor 9x squared minus 4 any further? Factors into 3x plus 2 and 3x minus 2. Then I have a x plus 3 and an x minus 2. That's a. It's on top. B is on the bottom. It is 3x minus 2. I cancel whatever factor I see on top. That's identical to the factor on the bottom. In simplistic terms, that means I cancel a parenthesis on top. That's exactly like a parenthesis on the bottom. So x minus 2 and 3x minus 2 on top and 3x minus 2 on the bottom cancel. And now I have 3 factors left, or 3 parentheses left. So those 3 parentheses, you're going to set each one of them equal to 0 to find the real roots. So set them equal to 0, and whether you do the math in your head or you show your work is up to you. We were told we only wanted answers that were real. They had no i's, and I could see that the answers do not have any i's. So you're welcome to show your work by subtracting 2 and dividing by 3, subtracting 3, and adding 2. Thumbs up or thumbs down for this problem? Okay. Read number 6 to yourself very carefully. I'm going to ask you a question. Go ahead. My question is, what's the difference in the directions between 5 and 6? All roots. Please circle all roots. So when they say all roots, they mean a root that has an I answer or roots that don't have I answers. They mean everything. So I'm going to use this space down below to do this. And I'm going to start by putting m. So I have 8x cubed over 1, or subtract 1. That's my m function. And the n function is 2x minus 1. As a quick review, 8x cubed minus 1 breaks into 2, 2, 2, x, subtract 1, 1, 1. So I'm going to make a parenthesis with 2 and a parenthesis with 3 all over 2x minus 1. Okay, so I bring out one of the 2x's and one of the 1's, and it had subtraction in the original problem. It stays with subtraction. And as a reminder, whatever this symbol is, in this case is subtraction, the next symbol you write down would be the opposite. So it's plus, and this is always plus. I've used one of the 2's, the x's, and the 1's. So I have 2 2's left. I have 4x squared, and 2 1's left. 1 times 1 is 1. The middle term can be found by multiplying these two and not worrying about the symbols. 2x times 1 is 2x. So I have a factor on top. You think of it as a parenthesis. I have a factor on top of 2x minus 1, a factor on the bottom of 2x minus 1. They cancel out. If somebody just said what's an equivalent expression, this would be your answer. You're done. But it doesn't ask for an equivalent expression. It asks for a root. Okay, everybody needs to put a little arrow to this. Whenever you do sum or difference of cubes, that's all this work we just did on top. Whenever you do this, every single time, this trinomial, these 3 terms together, always give you an answer that has i's every single time. Freshman. Every single time they give you answers that have i's. Every single time. And the only way to get the answer is to use this formula. And I'm going to see if I can flip this over. The only way when you have an I answer to get the answer is with this. What formula is this that you learned a long time ago? You may have been... It's the only way to get the I answers. So, I'm going to work through this for the reasons of speed. A is 4, B is 2, C is 1. So when I plug it in, I end up with a negative 2 plus or minus 2 squared minus 4ac all over 2 times 4. Please make sure you're showing all of your work because you'll have to do this in a couple days. I'll give you a chance to get caught up. inside the radical, this is called the discriminant. 2 squared is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. So I really have 4 minus 16. If you're like, oh, I'm not as good with mental math, well, then plug it in. 2 squared, subtract 4 times 4 times 1, and you still get the answer of negative 12. So this is x equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 12 over 8. At this point, almost everyone knows you can't take the square root of a negative, so that comes up front and becomes an I. And 12, ask yourself, can you break 12 down? Is there a perfect square that goes into 12 nicely? 4n times 3. Okay, so now I have the square root of 4 is 2. And you could do all this work. It's like a ton of busy work, but if you left your answer like this, it would be wrong. Because I'm going to circle them. We are asking ourselves, can 8 nicely reduce with 2 and 2? Yeah, they're all even. So let's divide those numbers by 2. I'm going to come off to the side, and I have x equals divided by 2, divided by 2, divided by 2. This is your final answer. There are 3 types of numbers that go into the next problem, which is number 7. There's 3 types of numbers. There's positives, there's negatives, and what's your neutral number? 0. Positives, negatives, or your neutral number 0. So let's look at number 7. All eyes up here, please, looking at number 7. Number 7 says, I want you to come up with some possible answers that are real. What are some possibilities? If you had to tell me a possibility that would make this graph look like this, okay? So here are your choices. You can choose a positive number, you can choose 0, or you can choose a negative. So write C equals and D equals. I'm going to do the first couple problems. All right, so I'm going to put this here. Please do second plus 712 on your graphing calculator. I'm going to zoom out so everybody can see this. That's not helping. I'll just come right over here. Okay, so I'm going to choose a positive number. Let's go, Alyssa, give me a positive number. We're going to work right now with integers, not with some type of fractions. Go ahead. 4. So type in 4, please, with me, and go x to the 3rd. Make sure to use your parentheses. And Mari, give me another number for D. So positive, negative, or 0?
12.
Do you want to go positive? Let's try 12. 12x. So I tried positive for both. And I want to know, does it look something similar to this? So positive, and I graph it. Okay. It's rising to the right and it's falling to the left, but does you agree it looks like a little too steep compared to this? Let's come back and let's change that 12 to like a 4 again. Just, they don't have to be the same number. I'm just wondering if they're similar, will look more like this shape. So I did 2 positives and now check. Does that look pretty similar? So let's put in 4 and 4. 4 and 4 work. Now, can we try 5 and 5? Sure, we're doing 2 positives. Flip and find number 8, please. Do second plus 712. Second plus 712. All right. So myself, whenever you have a shape that opens up to the right, it rises to the right, or it both opens up, myself, I'm thinking, okay, that leading coefficient is positive. So I'm going to try a positive for C. So I'm going to try again like 4, 5. Let's try 5x to the 4th. Make sure to use your parentheses. And now for D, we can try a positive, a 0, or a negative. Let's try positive again. Let's try plus 5x squared. What'd you say? So I'm trying 2 positives. Do 2 positives give me the same shape? Nope. Okay, let's change it. Now let's change it positive 5 and back into a 0. So now I'm changing the positive D into a 0. Does it work now? Nope. Okay, let's change it into a negative 5. So I'm subtracting 5. And now graph it. Does this start to look a little bit similar to what we have? But do you see how it comes down here to almost 3, and I can see mine don't come down to 3? So I'm going to come back up here and try, if I use a larger negative, will it make a difference? Like I'm going to switch it to a 9. This is just guess and check. Do you see now how it comes down further? I'm simply doing guess and check. So my C I did was 5. And the D I did was a negative 9. So my C was a positive and my D was a negative. Okay, with your partner, you are now going to try, please do second plus 7, 1, 2. With your partner talking together, you're going to try just number 9 for C and D. Ready? Begin. Okay, so I did a positive and a negative, and I ended up with this, a positive and a negative. How many of you had a positive followed by a negative? You got somewhat similar. What number did you use, Mariel? 4 and negative 4. Awesome. Let's go down to the next one. So do you understand how it's just guess and check? Okay, so with your partner, let's try number 10. This time I'm going to limit it to 45 seconds. Begin, please. So I came up with 2 negatives and it worked. Did you guys get 2 negatives work as well?
Yeah.
No, you didn't. Let's try mine. Maybe I did mine wrong. I did a negative 3x cubed, subtract a 3x. Do you guys agree that looks somewhat similar?
Yes.
Is there something else that worked? Somebody else used? Used a what? Oh, let's try that one. Let's try negative and 0 and see if negative and 0 works. Negative and 0 also work. Great. Okay? Nice job. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, let's flip it over. It's our last guessing one. Alyssa, I've been listening to conversations around me. What do you think C will be?
Negative.
Why do you believe that?
Going down.
There we go. So let's start off, we already think C could be negative. With your partner, let's work on D. Go ahead. Notice, by the way, it doesn't go up very far. Keep that in mind, okay? It doesn't go up very far. are going to stop for a second, and we're going to talk about average rate of change. Average rate of change. Who here enjoys running? You're not necessarily out for track, but you enjoy running. Carmen, you're not out for track, right? No?
No.
Okay. But Carmen enjoys running. And after college, she's a professional within nursing?
Mm-hmm.
Nursing? What is it? Culinary, okay? Wow, she's going to be busy. And so that's also going to be a very stressful job. And so she works out and she runs and she enters some of the local half marathons. Now, when you finish a race, it gives you a pace. It gives you your final time and it gives you a pace. Does that mean, let's say her pace is like 8 minutes and 30 seconds per mile. Does that mean she consistently ran 8 minutes, 30 seconds the entire time exactly? No. You could do that if you're on a treadmill, which forces you to run that pace, right? It means on average over the entire race. So at sometimes she may have been running a 7-minute race, and other times it may have been a 10, but on average. So keep that in mind when we look here. This particular problem says, which interval has a positive average rate of change? That doesn't mean the entire time positive rate of change is like a positive slope. It rises up from left to right. It doesn't mean the entire time it's rising. It means on average over the interval. The second thing to consider is these are both x values. This is not an ordered pair. So some of these, let's just take a glance before we do extra work. As a reminder again, average rate of change is like a slope. Y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Okay, so find where x is negative 9 and find where x is negative 8. Negative 9, negative 8. Now, I'm not going to do any work here, and here's the reason why. Brian, tell me the slope between negative 9 and negative 8. Zero. How did you get 0? Straight lines always have a slope of 0, right? Are we looking for an average rate of 0? Cross it out. So sometimes we got to be smart before we do something, okay? The next one says from 2 to 4. So find 2. So 2 is like right here, and 4 is right here. Do you guys still agree? So here's 2 and here's 4. Do I need to do that one? No, why don't you think so, Emily? The entire way, do you see how it's going up? So if it's going up from left to right the entire way, they're not asking us specifically for the number. They're just saying identify if it's positive. So if the entire way it's going up from left to right, would it be positive?
Yes.
Circle it. Okay, find negative 5 and find negative 1, please. Negative 5 and negative 1. Give me 1 second. So negative 5 is at this position. Negative 1 is at this position. Do I need to check that out? Why not? The entire time it's going down. Okay, now find negative 8 and negative 2. Do I need to check this one out? Yeah, I do, because part of the way it's going up, and then do you see how it's also going down? For those that are visually pretty good with this, do you see how exactly part of the way it's going up and exactly part of the way it's going down? Guess what's going to happen? What's going to happen if they're exactly part going up and part going down? What's going to happen with those two parts? They're going to cancel each other out. Watch. So here's negative 8. Please write this down as good practice. Here's negative 2. Negative 8 corresponds to negative 3, and negative 2 corresponds to negative 3. So when you do x sub 2, y sub 2, x, my fault, x sub 1, the y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2, and then you use this equation, it would be negative 3 subtract negative 3 over negative 2 subtract negative 8. Two negatives make a positive. Negative 3 and 3 is 0. Negative 2 and 8 is 6. What's 0 divided by anything? 0. You have one answer. Go on to number 13. 13, please circle average rate of change. And they're showing us another way to write this. So instead of having the intervals, which are most commonly used at this level of math, this time they showed us in a different notation. But let's rewrite it. Let's go negative 8 to negative 2. Bless you. With your partner, please find the exact average rate of change and write it in this box. Working with your partner, you have a minute and a half. Begin. Do not round. Okay, so -8, help me out. Luigi, what does -8 go with?
1.
And what does -2 go with?
-3.
Okay, let me go through this quick. We have y sub 2 subtract y sub 1, x sub 2 subtract x sub 1, -4 over +6. Reduce that fraction, -2/3, problem done. Check with your partner right now. Flip to the next page once you are both ready. Evelyn, did you find your mistake? Okay. Anybody else need help? You have to reduce it. Go to 14. Read 14 to yourself. You have 30 seconds. Begin. Read 14 to yourself individually. Maria, what are they asking you to find? Simplify. What do you want to find? Read it again. So can everybody just identify equivalent expression? So this is just like number 1 and 2. Do not look back at 1 and 2. Let's test you right now. There's no penalty if you get it wrong. See what you can do in 1 minute. Ready? Begin. On your own without your partner's help. Shh. Confusing between B and C. There was people arguing between partners, is it B or is C? Remember, this will always be a remainder, whether it's 0 or whether it's a number other than 0 will be the remainder. First number to the left has no x's, next number has 1x. So the correct answer is this. If you want to attach +0 over x plus 3, that would also be correct. Okay, Mari, I'm going to throw you on the spot. Because this is 0, what else do you know? Even though the question doesn't ask this, what else do you know? That -3 is a what? So -3 is an x-intercept. It may also be called a solution. What else do we know? One other thing. That x plus 3 is a factor. X plus 3 is a factor, okay? Go on to number 15. On your own, begin. Same question, just different problem. If you see me make a small mistake, please let me know. I'm trying to get through this as quick as possible. So no x's, 1x, but we have a remainder. What do we put on the bottom? It's always whatever the denominator is. So that answer would be D. The answer would be D. Okay? What does this tell us, Evelyn? What does this tell us since we have a number here? Close. It's not something is right. It's not what, though. What did Mari say the -3 was? So when we have 0 that says, yes, this is an x-intercept, yes, this is a solution, yes, x plus 3 is a factor. But when we don't get a 0, it tells us, right, it's not an x-intercept, it's not a solution, and this is not a factor, okay? Go on to number 16. Please be careful. Working with your partner, you have 1.5 minutes. Begin. Feel free to glance up if you want to check. By the way, circle where it says contains a factor. What does that mean to us? It is a factor. What else does it tell us? It's going to work. Thank you. She is not here. Okay, Nicole, please listen to Nicole's answer. Nicole, where do you think people are going to get confused and make a mistake? Did everybody hear what Nicole just said? Say it again, please. Do you guys see how there's no x cubed here? We still have to represent it. So what do we put in front of it, Nicole? Good. So 0x cubed minus 11x squared plus a to the x to the first minus 8. We know this answer works. It's a factor, so I put a 0. Bring down the first. Multiply, add. Multiply, add. Multiply. Now think about this. If this equals 0, because it does contain this factor, this has to be a positive 8. Negative 4 times what number is positive 8? Circle this. A plus a negative 20 equals negative 2. Did I write that down right? Nope. How about that? Better? Negative 2 plus 20 is 18. A equals 18. Okay, go down to number 17. Number 17, with help of your partner, this is a 30-second problem. Read the question and begin. Yeah. We only have like 5 left. Can you wait for 5 or not? Okay. See where you go. Can you wait for 1 second? Okay. So x plus 1, x plus 2, and x plus 4. First, you have to see what factors. You think of them as parentheses. The correct math term is factors. What factors? Then you take each of the remaining factors after you reduce. You set them equal to 0, and you solve, giving you answers of x equals negative 1 and x equals negative 4. That would be the solutions, the x-intercepts. Find 18. We're going to speed it up. I'm going to do number 18, and you are definitely going to write down the problem. This is the most difficult problem. It does involve probably 5 to 6 steps. Okay, ready? All stuff you know to do. Okay, to me, I look at this, and I didn't plan ahead. I made this up last year, and so I know these work. But when I first looked at this, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to factor that? Don't you agree it looks ugly? Okay, do you see on top how they all have an x? What's the most x's you can pull out of every term on top? 1. Okay, also, I asked myself, what's the smallest number on top? It's 8. So I know 1, 2, 4, and 8 all go into 8. Does 8 nicely go into 50? Okay, 8 doesn't work. Does 4 nicely go into 50? No. What about 2? Yeah, because they're all even. So let's pull out a 2x. And I'd be left with 4x squared plus 25x minus 21. On the bottom, also, I'm a little intimidated. This looks pretty difficult. They're both even, so let's pull it a 2. And by the way, this is a hint. Always look on top. If you can pull something out on top, A lot of times they're looking to see, can you pull that same, can you factor out that same expression on the bottom? So I can take out a 2, and I can also take out an x. And I'd be left with x squared minus 49. So I'm going to start with this portion. I'm going to come up here. 4x squared plus 25x minus 21. Okay, what multiplies to equal 84 and combines to give you 25? And I could give you guys time, but we're on kind of a limited time schedule. I'm going to tell you that it's positive 28 and negative 3. So that means it's x plus 28 and x minus 3. Now, most students, when they are crunched for time, this is where they make a mistake in factoring. They forget to do the next step. What is the next step of factoring this? Divide by 4. Do bottoms up. So this reduces to, I'm going to come back over here. This is 2x, and we have x plus 7, because it reduces. And this cannot reduce, so I push up the 4. 4x minus 3. Okay, my numerator is totally factored. We are done with 95% of the problem. We've done all the hard stuff. Bring down the 2x in the denominator, and x squared minus 49 factors into x plus 7 and x minus 7. Just like number 17, your next goal is to cancel out, we think parentheses, but the correct term is factor. Cancel any factor on top with a factor in the bottom. So I'm able to cancel out the 2's, the x's, and the x plus 7's, and my final answer is C. Thumbs up and thumbs down. Not that you can do it that fast, but you get the general idea. Okay, 19 you're going to do with your partner. This is where you get to guess what do you think the C and D is. But let's stop, let's throw, and let's put, let's go with Moy. Moy, what type of number do you predict C is going to be? Why? There we go. Okay, with your partners, go ahead, please. All right, who has some answers for me? What do we have? What works? 2 and 3? 4 and 3. So both positive. Okay, both positive. They say 4 and 3 works. Does that mean that's the only answer, or could you have different numbers? Okay, let's go down to the next one. There are 4 different factors here. Factors is the right math term you want to get used to. So I'm going to have you underline them with me. Here are the 4 different factors. And we're going to set each factor equal to 0 to find the zeros. So x equals 0, 5x plus 1 equals 0, 3x minus 2 equals 0, and 8x plus 4 equals 0. Now some of you are going to want to show your work, and I would definitely suggest that on the test you don't make a small mistake. Others will do mental math. Please solve for each one of those. All right, so I have an answer of 0. I'm going to subtract 1 and divide by 5. I have an answer of D, negative 1/5. I'm going to add 2 and divide by 3. I have an answer of F. And I'm going to subtract 4 divide by 8. I don't see that, but when I reduce it, I get negative 1/2. Okay, come down below. I think you can do this with your partner. You're going to have one person read it, and the opposite person is going to give directions on what they believe the answer is. 1 minute to get that done, begin. I made a mistake in my answer. Ready with your partner? Raise your hand when you see it, but don't say it out loud. Go. This mistake is commonly missed during polynomials. This original problem is an x squared, right? Does everybody see where I'm missing the square? Don't make that small mistake. Flip over. Find number 22. You guys are doing really well. Okay, so we've done a problem like this where we wanted to find an average rate of change that was equivalent to a positive number. Now we want to find one that's equivalent to 0. So I'm going to go one by one and find out which one is this. So I have -5 and something and 0 and something. But here's the deal. If the average rate of change is 0, when I do y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1, what kind of answer am I going to get if this thing equals 0? 0 divided by a number, right? Why can't the 0 be on the bottom? Can we have zeros in the denominator? So I want to find out which one of these intervals of x's gives me a 0 on top. That's all I'm looking for. Okay, so -5 goes with 0, it's just by chance, and 0 goes with 3. When I do y sub 2 minus y sub 1, do I get a 0? No. Cross it out. Okay, let's do -2 and 3. Okay, so -2 goes with 7, and 3 goes with -5. Y sub 2 minus y sub 1. Do you get 0? Cross it out. Do you understand what I'm doing right now? Yeah. Okay, try C and try D. Only one of them will work. Anybody know the answer? C. C works? Okay. Let's move on to this one. So we have the temperature, and it's in Celsius. And here's the time after midnight. So this is 6 a.m. Please write this down. This is 9 p.m. And 13 is actually, this is 6 a.m., 9 a.m., and 1 p.m. But we're going to use this military time, which, is hour 0 is midnight, 1 is 1 a.m., and so on, all the way through a cycle of 24 hours. And we want to find out, where is it increasing the fastest? Where are you getting the warmest? So let's do 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. So do 6 and 9. 6 goes with 19 and 9 goes with 25. And so I'm going to do y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. 6 over 3 reduces to 2. Now that's a positive 2. That means from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. the temperature is going up, so plus at an average of 2 degrees Celsius per hour. Does that make sense? From 6 to 9 is the temperature generally getting warmer because the sun is coming up? Okay, now we're going to check from 9 to 1. But here's the deal. They're trying to throw you off because you can't put a 9 and a 1 in. Why can't you put a 1 in? Because really it's a 13. Really it's a 13, right? 1 p.m. is equivalent to 13. All right, 13 hours after midnight. So 9 goes with 25 and 13 goes with 31. So y sub 2 minus y sub 1, 31 minus 25, over 13 subtract 9. 6 over 4. Take 6 divided by 4. What's 6 divided by 4? So it's just 1.5, right? So we're going up at 1.5 degrees Celsius per hour. So which one has a faster increase, from 6 to 9 or from 9 to 1? Correct answer is A.